So, Julia, the thing that we were about to talk about next was, we were making our way through the interviews. Josh Giddey, the newest Bull, who said a lot of interesting things. One of which was talked about a specific injury that I don't know if everybody knew about and where he was in the rehab with that. What did you make about Giddey and that development today?
Yeah, you always love it when you have to Google the name of a ligament
right.
during media day. I love that feeling.
Never heard of that.
Also did that.
Yeah. No, long story short, it does feel like this will be fairly quick, except that we've said that about how many Bulls injuries over the years, and that's not always true. Obviously, I think there was kind of that pit in the stomach moment just seeing Josh go down with any type of injury in that game. That was, not what anyone wants to really see for any player. So I am curious, I think the biggest issue here is just the chemistry part of it. I don't know how you feel about that, Will, but just him not being able to work back in with new teammates is just another factor of what we can kind of expect in terms of maybe the chemistry and how it's going to look in the opening weeks.
I mean, it was surprising to hear. I mean, he just came out and said it too. It's typically not how it goes. It's usually we hear through PR. There's the party line about how they're supposed to talk about it, what words they're supposed to use. And he just came out and said it. So it was surprising. He did. And I was going to follow up if you didn't, because, you asked a great question about okay, are you going to be ready? What's the prognosis here? And he said that if basically he ruptured his ATFL during the last play of that Serbia game. It's a ligament in the back of your Achilles or ankle. And, he thought it was just a bad ankle sprain. He went back to Melbourne and got some scans on it. Turned out it was ruptured. And he's been rehabbing since then. He said that if it were a playoff game, he would probably be there. But since they have time, it is still training camp. They want to be conservative with it. And I think that's the right approach. But he did say he expects to be ready by opening night. But I think that's a great question for you, Will, is how difficult is it for a player who misses training camp to come in and get to assimilate and to be a part of the team when you are such a fundamental piece of how the offense is going to run and nobody's had a chance to play with you?
I think it depends on the individual. And I'm going to step out here and just say, I think for this guy, just from what I've seen when I've watched him play at OKC, but also even just listen to how he answers the questions, I think it's going to be seamless.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. I walked away thinking that this guy gets it. He sees the game differently. I almost think of the way he kind of answered some of the questions. I think he almost is on the verge of a basketball savant, quite honestly. And I'd be interested to see what you guys thought, because you kind of get used to some canned answers and what guys have to say, but the depth at which he goes to when he answers questions about the game, I think he's one of those guys that just I always talk about, to see guys go to the next level, it's about IQ, right? Understanding how to play. I think he already understands how to play the game. He's almost opposite of most guys. I think what you can see from him is he can obviously get stronger. He can get quicker, his lateral movement. He even addressed about not wanting to be the weak link on defense. It's very rare that you see a guy that will stand up and say, hey, when you looked at that OKC team and teams wanted to attack us, I didn't want to be that guy, but they're probably going to attack me. So I want to see, okay, if that's the case, then you're coming to a team that doesn't really have a defensive identity. So how do you then step up and possibly make that improvement, but also be a leader? But I thought that was like a breath of fresh air. I could sit here and listen to him talk about basketball all day. And I'm curious about the two of you guys is, outside of that intelligence aspect, because as you watch him play, I also was curious what you thought about how he addressed the turnover issue about, you can't be afraid to make that pass, playing with doubt or regret. So I'm curious if you guys picked up anything on how he's going to address that, because I also love the fact he said he went back and watched all the games in the Olympics to try to pick up some things that he needed to work on leading up to this season.
Yeah, what were your just initial impressions of him as a person and covering him and how you think he fits in?
Yeah, I've been kind of to what you were saying, Will, I've been really struck by the way that he talks about the game since we just had that introductory Zoom, which a Zoom is a really hard way to try to get to understand a player. But similar to what you were saying, the way he talked about passing today and understanding that really careful balance between risk taking and caution and what that means as a passer was very interesting. that's the kind of just talker that you like to have in a locker room. Alex Caruso was kind of similar to that, just in terms of being able to talk through the game. And especially for someone that young, I think that's been something that's kind of stuck out to me. I think with this team and with how transitional this team is, just in like where they are as a group, I just do worry that no matter how well you know how you want things to play out in your head, I just worry about like what execution looks like with this entire group. That's not just on Giddey. So yeah, I'm curious about that fit.
And he just walked by here, but you know who's going to have a huge impact on this guy? Peter Patton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, you think about what I think he's kind of like, quite honestly, he's kind of like the unheralded hero of this team. He just kind of does his work in the background, spends so much time with these guys. You've seen the improvement with Kobe. You've seen the improvement with Io. He's a key factor for that. And I think now when Giddey can get out on the floor and start working with Peter, what he already knows, and then what Peter knows, and you put those two things together, that's going to be fun to watch.
We all silly like the